All right, welcome to what I believe is our fifth video in this series, this first initial series on outdoor education. And we've so far talked about sort of why outdoor education has value, how you can implement outdoor education at your school, and sort of the logistics. I've talked about two different ways where that can begin to happen, either as where you utilize the outdoors as an extension of your classroom, or where you actually incorporate the outdoors into your lesson and use the outdoors as a material, as a manipulative in your lesson. Now, the next thing I'll talk about, which is not necessarily more challenging, but it's sort of the next step and requires broadening that sort of geographic scope of the outdoors, from outdoors at your school to outdoors in the community. And this can be exceptionally rewarding. And as I mentioned earlier, part of my overarching philosophy for this concept of outdoor education is that you extend the learning space beyond your classroom, and therefore your content can be reinforced at all times. Now, obviously, if you extend the learning space to the greater world, their community, places they see on a regular basis when they're not in school, then that just enhances that ability to utilize the outdoors as a tool to reinforce content. So there are a lot of ways that this can be done, and every subject area, every content area, every grade level can benefit from some knowledge about your community and from you doing some exploration on your own. Take a chance to drive around, talk to students. Once again, I cannot stress enough how valuable it can be to collaborate just through conversation with either students or with faculty at your school. Custodians, secretaries, admin, all of these people have a unique perspective and can help you sort of utilize their perspective as part of your teaching outside of your classroom. So some ideas here might be just a scavenger hunt. Have your students look for evidence of your class while they're driving, while they're walking around their neighborhood. Encourage them, incentivize a walk, incentivize a family outing in order to sort of enhance your curriculum. There are lots of ways that I do this. I try to give my students choices when it comes to utilizing the outdoors, and I always recommend traveling not too distant from their home and taking their family to the bosque, to the petroglyphs, to the foothills where I am right now. Almost anyone can travel a very short distance and be somewhere that is not, the classroom, that is not their home. And once again, outdoor education doesn't have to be nature education. It doesn't have to be environmental education. The whole idea is that they're not in the school. They're not in the classroom. They're not in the built environment. They're in the sun. They're hearing birds. They're looking at soil. They're engaging with their community. They're looking at billboards. They're looking at making mathematical observations based on traffic signals. I mean, who knows? The universe, the world is available to you, and your students are interacting with it and moving through it at all times. Give them the excuse to learn when they're doing that. There are a lot of different things that can happen here. Some general ideas are utilizing an open window, a backyard, a front yard, a neighborhood walk. Like I said, a drive down the street, a drive to the grocery store, a trip through the grocery store. Math, language, English, social studies, science, film, art, all of these things are happening and at all times in our lives, and there's no reason that students shouldn't be critically engaging with those aspects of our life that are relevant to your curriculum. So I highly recommend you, now as you move beyond your school and you view your school, you've already taken part in viewing your school through the lens of outdoor education, view the world in the same way. When you're at the grocery store, think about how a student can benefit from that experience and learn something about your curriculum, whether it's the Columbian exchange, punctuation, language development, packaging and art, things like that. There's, ample opportunities out there for enrichment and engagement and reinforced concepts. One thing that I've had to grapple with this year while learning remotely is that not every student has a yard. Not every student has easy access. Not every student has the time to do this. So once again, as I've said before, thinking about equity, thinking about opportunity, thinking about the world as seen through our students is going to be very valuable. So when offering things like credit or extra credit, give choices. Make sure that a student that doesn't have a yard can still benefit from these experiences. Make sure a student that is walking to school versus driving to school can still benefit from these experiences. And try to have an open mind when providing students with incentive or opportunity, or when, in some cases, when you're requiring a certain type of behavior. These can be challenging. These might involve conversations with students and, being an open ear to someone who maybe has different perspectives or different ideas. But all of these components of outdoor education it's a process. You're learning all the time. You have to adapt and modify regularly. And I know that for me personally, that enhances my overall appreciation of my curriculum, of my content, of my school, of my community, and I feel far more engaged now with my students and with their world, having incorporated the community as part of my teaching. I actually have broadened this to such an extent that I now have a class that regularly ventures out into the community. It's an upper level high school class, and we take opportunities to go and visit portions of the community in order to learn about our content. And it has been an immensely challenging and immensely difficult, but also immensely rewarding experience. And I highly recommend that if you cannot bring your students to their community, then give your community an opportunity to come visit your students, maybe on campus, maybe remotely. But invite others, invite someone from the local parks department, from Bernalillo County or Albuquerque Open Space, from the National Forest or the National Park Service, from a community garden, from the Gutierrez Hubble House, from anywhere in your community that relates to your content. They are more than willing to help you out in most cases. I know this from experience, and I highly recommend that if you're unable to bring your students into their community as part of outdoor learning, try to bring the community to them to incentivize maybe someday they go visit that location that you're focusing on. Now, one last thing I'll say, and I'll say this from a point of privilege. I'm a science teacher, I'm a life science teacher, and it is far easier for me to incorporate the outdoors as part of my curriculum than it is for many other subjects. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. And I'd say if you have a group of science teachers, life science teachers, physical science, or earth and planetary science teachers at your school, they're a really good resource for stuff like this. Chances are they're aware of the outside, they're aware of some of these concepts, and if you teach language, talk with your biology teacher, talk about taxonomy, talk about word origins and species names. There's a lot of room for collaboration there. If you're an art teacher, talk to your science teachers about incorporating field journals and field guides into your classwork and your coursework. If you are a social studies teacher, there's lots of information out there that relates to the social sciences and the life sciences when it comes to things like endangered species, habitat protection, climate change. There's a lot of overlap, and I'm, once again, a science teacher, so I can speak from experience here. I'm always utilizing the work of others in my class, and I'm always trying to reinforce concepts from other classes in my class. Language, English, social studies, CTE, art, and math. There's always room, and look for those science teachers on your campus. They might have interesting ideas as to how to incorporate these other subjects into the learning process. So that's the end of this first series on outdoor education. I hope you benefited from it to some extent, and I hope it starts conversations with yourself, with your students, and with your school community. And I'm pretty easy to find through APS. You just start typing my name, Jordy Hicks, and I'll come up. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. So if you have questions or have any guidance or support or want to give me some of your ideas that I would love to hear, feel free to contact me at any time. I'm always looking for new and interesting ideas because I definitely haven't thought of everything. That's for darn sure. And I'm always willing to learn and work with others on this process. Teaching is a process that takes time and investment, and this year has really forced me to dramatically change almost everything I do about my class. And being cooped up indoors has really incentivized the need to get students and myself outdoors more often. And I hope you utilize this opportunity that we've been presented. As horrible as it is a chance to grow. And once again, thank you for indulging me on this, and I look forward to seeing you outside.